Down. Okay. All right.
All right, everyone. Welcome to what might be the most important topic of PLX so far. My name is Tom Slocum, founder, CEO at the FD Lab. Today, we're talking about a session very, very dear to my heart, as well as Rob and Daniel's. Today's economic environment is more challenging than ever over the last couple of years. And with that in mind, how are you able to best utilize partners and the channel ecosystem to warm up prospects to enable sales conversations to move quicker, close quicker, and at larger amounts? So, what I'd love to kick us off with is why does partner engagement fail? So, I'm going to kick it over to you, Rob. And in that, can you give us a little bit of an intro and what you're doing here today with us? And tell us, why is partner engagement failing?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I am slightly biased. Superglue is the partner engagement automation platform, but I think like the reason that I believe or that we believe for partnerships not to work out, in partner engagement to fail, is that I think that the reason is that partnership teams are overloaded, right? So you have this kind of setup where partnership teams, like, they talk to a bunch of people, they do these lunch and learn sessions, nothing happens in between, silence, and then they hope something, they get an intro or they ask for something. And I think we have to like, partner engagement is an active process. It's not, you can't then cheap kind of workarounds. You have to build relationships before you ask for something, and engagement comes from relationships. It comes from trust. It comes from excitement. It comes from a shared understanding and missions, etc. So I think the reason is that we very often don't do that, right? We just have we sign these partnership agreements, we do a little onboarding sessions, and then hope everything happens by itself. And we need to figure out ways, and Superglue is just one of them. And PRM is playing an important role in that kind of tech stack that enables driving engagement. We have to figure out the ways how to change the dynamics. And I would say that's the handover to you, Daniel.
You want to tell us a little bit about you, Rob? Where you're from, what you're doing here today?
Yeah, originally from Germany, as you can tell, can't get rid of that accent. But I'm in the US now. I'm actually currently in Montana. I spent a lot of time in San Francisco as well. And before Superglue, I founded a company in the MarTech space that we grew via partners. We now drive 70% of the revenue in that business via partners. So I'm a big believer in this space, obviously, and made a lot of mistakes, and made all of these mistakes that I just described, and kind of didn't really tackle this stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being here. Great way to open it up, right? Focus, vision, and execution. Daniel, give us a little bit of rundown about yourself and why is partner engagement failing in your eyes?
So I'm Daniel Graff Radford, CEO here at Allbound, and want to thank Partner Hacker for inviting us, putting out that amazing video about how Allbound helped them get started. And I think this is a really important topic today because, we're entering such a different economic environment that the best that we can do is learn as much as we can from each other. And so PLX Summit is the perfect place to do that. I think there's two things to think about with failure of partnerships. There's failure to launch, failure over time. Failure to launch comes from people making promises that they can't deliver on. And so we've all been to that great QBR dinner where everyone thinks this is going to go great, and then it sort of fizzles out. And so the way to make that go better is to set, really clear expectations of what are the partner engagement metrics that you can view by week, by month, and so forth, and that who's going to view them and who's going to interact about them. And it shouldn't be punitive when things go off track. It should be more carrot than stick on how to help your partners be more successful. So that's on the launching side. Why do they fail over time? Stuff gets stale, man. Like, if you have the same social media post on month 6 that you had on month 1 and no one clicked on it, big surprise, right? So you have to have such a level of creativity, not just on how you're going to engage prospects together, but also on what that partnership means, month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, and it changes. And what does it mean to your prospects? And so, given the multitude of audiences, it really needs to be something that you're making fresh and that you're putting attention and creativity to.
I love
Love
that.
it.
Time kills all partnerships.
It's the
Well,
in between, right?
Yeah.
It's the in between that impacts everywhere, right? Even from a prospecting side in my wheelhouse, right? It's everybody just gets the meeting booked and then forgets about it, closes the deal and never talks to the customer again. Same with
Yeah.
partnerships, right? It's that failure to launch successfully. What are clear expectations? How is this relationship working? And then how do we nurture them every in between all of that to where it's not just close this partner in January, don't have a lunch until March, and they don't
Yeah.
hear from you until a week before. Come to our lunch and learn, like come, and it's just you're asking and asking and not giving back to them through those middle in between pieces. And like you said, Daniel, right, getting stale, and kind of keeping it bland, right? It's the same thing with you all the time. You're asking for the same things. There's not much excitement. You want your partners to be your champions. They need to be excited.
Yeah.
And so how do you know, so in this, how do you know on the flip side when your partners are engaged, and how can you incentivize them to be engaged, right? Where do you fit the other side of this?
We pay a lot of attention to that here at Allbound, and try to put out a lot of best practices and things to think about with that. And, one of the things that I think is so important is to not treat your partnership as a monolith, that there are
Mm-hmm.
actual factual people in there that are doing things that are helpful, or they're not doing things that are helpful. And, we've seen partnerships where it looks like a partner is generating a ton of revenue for one of our customers, and then we see it begin to drop off. And when we dig in with our customer, what they can see is that one of the top salespeople at that partner on that partner side went off to do something else. And so you got to go chase her down and get her new company to be a partner. And also define more people than that one person at that first partner program to be engaged. So look at the breadth of the people that are doing things, and take the learnings from someone that's having success, and teach your other partner reps why she is succeeding, so that the next person
Mm-hmm.
can succeed as well.
Great. What about you, Rob?
Well, I think that's such a good point, right? Like partnerships, like a great partnership is the result of hundreds of great individual relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are those relationships that really drive everything forward, right? Like these people within your partners, organizations that support you, these influencers, etc. So I think that's extremely important. When it comes to incentive, I mean, when I think of incentives, I very often think of like financial incentives, and I think that can
Sure. Yeah.
play an important role. But ultimately, that's not what makes for great partnership in most cases, right? It's really it's about figuring out how do we ensure that the other our partners know what we're doing, right? They trust us and all of that stuff, and yeah, how do we track that? How can we manage that? It's really hard, and I think like pretty much everybody's struggling with it. I think I heard like Jared talk about signals yesterday and qualitative feedback, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
a session where he talked about them collecting certain signals and certain comments, etc. And I think that could be a start in many cases. Because partnerships, there's so much that happens in the background that you always can't track, right? Like
Right.
I've had partners that I thought were unengaged, and in background they pitched us to 5 Fortune 500 companies at
Right.
the same time, and we just didn't know. Part of the reason why we didn't know is because we didn't talk to them enough.
Yeah. Talking, communicative, right? It'd be great to have a partner CRM, right? Like instance where I worked for a company, very short story, where, like you said in the beginning, 80% of our sales revenue came from our partnership side, more so than the account executives and SDR side. And what they did was every month they brought in their partners to do trainings to where they treated them like employees of their own company, right? Actual reps. They gave them content. They worked and partnered them with marketing to give them collateral. And they kept them engaged. And after partners hit revenue goals, they got actually equity in the company. That was a huge incentive. The more they drove pipeline and supported the mission, right? Once they hit these MLM kind of structures, right? They would get more equity into the company, right? But if you create like a partner ecosystem to talk regularly, let them feel like they work alongside you, and you never know what they're doing in the background.
Yeah.
They are having conversations. That's the whole point of using partners. And I love that you brought that up, because that's the secret sauce, is that you have more boots on the ground than you do by yourself, right? Like, sure, super glue can be great. It can promote, it could do what it needs to do. But if you've got 20 people in secret rooms, conversations that you would never get to be a part of, imagine the effect that those partners can have for you, and the deals that come in that you probably could have never tracked, right? Because they just get through the ecosystem. So really great points there from both of you on how to keep them engaged, how to incentivize in some avenues. I want to talk about how in the sales function, right? We're in a cold, frigid climate. Things are tough. People are trying to get creative. Where can SDRs and AEs help build partners? And if they aren't, why aren't they building partners and champions now? I'll kick this off to you, Daniel, first for your view. But how can that top of funnel function and those sales folks be leveraging their partners or helping build more?
Yeah. So, there's actually a comment in the chat from Jason Lawson, Director of Partnerships at Cloud Call, about producing and orchestrating quality, relevant, fresh content is an opportunity for partner teams. I think you can run contests, and I've seen this work really, really well, where you can have the SDRs, who has the highest engagement with some of their reach out, which of the AEs is getting the most engagement on social media. And through these contests, if we're in sales, like many of us are, that we're competitive creatures, and if we see someone doing great, we're going to add a little bit of extra creativity in. And if it's being tracked and measured and reported on, we're also going to learn what's working from someone else. And that contest will drive internal eyeballs within the partners, and to get to the external eyeballs with what's working. So contests create learning.
I like that. That's a great one. Contests create learning. What about you, Rob?
Well, I think it's ultimately it's like a change management process, right? You've got these SDRs, the AEs, they want to close deals, right? And they very often, like, partners seem like a distraction. So we have to figure out how to convey value. And the moment that they realize that this helps them win more deals, bigger deals, deals that win customers that are less likely to churn, etc. The moment that happens, there's a mindset shift, and they're never going to go back to the old way.
They're all in. Right.
Exactly.
They're all in at that point. They see
it. But it's hard, right? It's like, yeah, we can tell them these stories, we can show them the numbers, etc. Normally that doesn't work that well. So I think it's like we have to take them by the hand. Very often what I've seen work well is, or what I've done in my teams, I had somebody that worked on a big deal. We had a partner. They didn't really involve them. I supported them. We made it happen, and we made sure that they realized like what the partner contributed. They experienced it firsthand, and then they went out and they told their colleagues, right? They're like, "Hey, by the way, I closed this massive deal. We beat our competition because this partner helped us, etc." And that changes the dynamic, and then you've got this, you turn like this snowball into an avalanche, because all of a sudden everybody wants to do partner-related stuff. And then, there are additional things to do, right? Like I think phase 2 is then once you have buy-in, you need to think about like, how can you expand the reach, build out these people's networks. Most of them already have a network. They know partners. Very often they know partners, but they don't know how many potential partners or existing partners they know, right? Because there are these calls with these agencies and this and that, and you need to raise their awareness for what they can do with all of their relationships. And then, phase 3 is them kind of training them to listen to the science side, right? Like when you talk to a customer and they mention a certain SI, they should actually go back and be like, "Hey, do we know that SI? Have we worked with them?" And be a lot more proactive. And I think then your organization changes, and you've got a more partner-centric sales approach, sales motion. And again, like once you've achieved that, there's no going back. Like, no, this doesn't.
There's not.
You know, like, oh, we did partner-led selling or worked with partners. We want to go back to the old ways. I've never seen that.
Yeah, going back to my example of the company I worked for, we had one SDR who literally all of his meetings on the daily came from his partners,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
He had a partner in his network that he decided to nurture and treat because he was just tapped in way
yeah,
more than he was. And so this guy was talking to a lot of people all the time and didn't really want to do the sales motion. So he kicked them to the SDR because they were friends and had a good relationship. And then that SDR was booking 3, 4 extra meetings a day, and everybody's like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't do anything. It's my partner. I work with my partner.
yeah.
And then I bring him into sales function, right? So it was incredible. And he would never go back. He was like, I'll never lose. And he kept building more partners. And I think, in this landscape, when it's so cold right now and you're trying to break through, sales folks don't realize, talk to your network, talk to your people, your prospects. They know people more than you do. And a warm intro or them making introductions for you goes so much further when they feel appreciated. They feel like they're working with you. And then when you call up, it's like, hey, Rob, it's Tom over at SD Lab. I was talking to my partner, Daniel. You're good friends with him. And he was telling me you might be somebody I should talk to. You're going to pique your ears for an extra 5 seconds because you know Daniel, right? Daniel provided an intro or dropped you a note to where now I can have a really good cold call with you or email exchange by leveraging my partners, right? Or Daniel's making the intro and calling me, hey, I want to introduce you to Rob. So partners are really good and do a lot in the sales function when you can really appreciate it. And I feel like SDRs and AEs, it's just like asking for a referral. Ask if they want to partner with you. Hey, do you know anybody else? I'd love to get you involved in our partner program. You have a really good, wealthy network that, if we work together, I'll take care of them on my side, and then you can give me the leads and you get paid in the same process. Who doesn't want to do that when they're dealing with a good sales rep or sales experience, right?
Tom, that's such a good example, and I bet that SDR also did a really good job of thanking that partner
He
and letting
did.
know how that meeting went. One of the things
Yeah.
that is a mistake, is when you don't go back to the person that referred you in and thank them. Their
Yeah.
their
Yes.
big takeaway
Yes.
a lot of times is that relationship, and so if you treat the person, amazingly that they've introduced you to, and you go back and explain how well that went, they're gonna introduce you to more people. And
Yeah.
if they don't hear from you or they have to chase you down for that, that's not gonna go very well. I think that example is a really good example, and one of the things that sometimes gets overlooked is that follow-up, and it's so important.
Follow up is where battles are won, right? It's going back and showing gratitude, just a thank you, right? I still love when people respond to my cold emails, just at least saying something, right? Just the response. And my first line is, I appreciate you, Rob, for even taking a moment to respond in
Yeah.
that, and then my reach, right? Just so they know, like, you didn't have to stop for me and do that intro. You didn't have to work for me. He would send them gifts because his paychecks were 3, 4x now. So what's a couple $100? We weren't using gifting platforms. I know it was back, a while back, but he would send them, a bottle of wine, or send them somewhere, but look in their local area and send them a gift card to a restaurant for them to go, and just said thank you. You got me an extra 5 meetings this month. So there's a lot there, and I love that you guys both tackled on that. As we wrap up here, how do you do partnership planning with your partners in a way that you can actually predict revenue going into 2023, right? We've talked about why it fails, how to keep them engaged, how to even create partners, but now how do we plan around it and find a way to get predictable revenue from these channels? How do you two do it, or some systems? I'll kick it off to you, Rob, first as we close out.
It's hard. I mean, overall, revenue planning, right, for 2023 is very difficult for anybody. And when it comes to doing that for your partner org, it's probably twice as hard, just because you basically have like this third party and you need to kind of get a feel for their impact. But it's possible. I think I think, yeah, you can take this top-down approach where you look at the past, you extrapolate, etc. But I really like a bottom-up approach where you go in, especially with your top partners. You have these conversations where you commit to goals, and that's what I've seen. Like the most successful partnerships that we had, or that have, are the ones where we sat down, we're like, hey, what's the goal? What is your, like, and everybody like shares their goals. Like we talk about what's realistic, how we're going to achieve that, etc. And then it's surprising, right? Once you commit to a goal, you're a lot more likely to reach it. And when it comes to partnerships, very often it's just, we partner like hope is probably the word, right? Like it's
right.
not
Some work out. Yeah, some will work out, some won't. You don't really have an actual engagement process. And I love that you capture that. It's forecasting with your partners. Get your top ones, sit down with them, and let them be involved in your 2023 planning. How cool, how awesome of an experience for them to truly feel like they're committed and say, where can I step in? Okay, on a month to month, I can, intro you to 5 people. And out of that, I think one would be able to be a buyer. Right. And now you can add that into your forecasting and say, okay, my SDRs are committing this, AEs are here, partners are here. If we can hit all of this, we should be in a good place. Or, hey, partner, maybe those are too high of goals. Let's drop it down a little bit realistic. Maybe 20 intros a month is too much. We would prefer if we could just get 5, committed ones. And then you nurture that and you work with that. You incentivize it with challenges for your partners. And they all are in your motion, just like the rest of your team is through the year.
And there are interesting insights that happen. Like, right, you talk to somebody and like I've talked to partners like, no, we can do more. And it changes dynamic, right? Like, and there are others, like if you talk to somebody silence, we have a problem, right? Like we don't end up in a situation like, okay, they're going to contribute X and then nothing happens. So it's a very valuable exercise to get a feel for what's actually going on in the ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Daniel. Interviewed hundreds and hundreds of companies about how they do quarterly business reviews and do planning. We actually have a template you can download for free. You don't have to be our customer at allbound.com to do that. If you want to see that and you can use that. Obviously, if you have a portal like ours or others, we have a partner planning that's a joint planning session. But one of the things that I want to really point out is think about the meeting before you have it in terms of do some research on your partner. Look at what they said they were going to do before versus what they delivered. Look at how they're doing health-wise. Are they on LinkedIn getting more and more employees and growing and growing? Are they kind of in decline? How are they web ranking? Do a little sleuthing about them. So as you're walking in, you don't set them up to fail by having a different expectation than can be hit. The key on the key on the actual planning is not just the revenue planning, but what are they doing on training and engagement and co-selling and prospecting? And look at those monthly partner engagement metrics. What are things you're promising on product or co-selling or MDF? So it's a two-way promising type of meeting, not just a one-way. Otherwise, they will not be as pleased at the end. And so you can build this out and have a really great meeting where both sides are making a fair amount of commitment to each other and then tracking it in real time. And that really matters. Don't show up at the next QBR surprised nothing happened if no one tracked it.
Right. Great points. Love that. Shout out to the free planning doc as well. And I agree with you. It's the upskilling, it's the up leveling, looking at how previous results were, all that great stuff. So to end, we have discovered that partnerships might hold the keys to some of sales' biggest challenges today. It's here. We've run through some tips and tricks that'll help your reps and your orgs level partnerships to hopefully warm up and cut through the noise with your prospects. And we even hit on why you should be investing in partnerships. So to anybody watching this, hopefully we brought the value. Is there anything you two would like to add? I'll kick it to you, Daniel, as a one last thing for anybody that's still not bought into the motion of having sales and partnership.
Yeah, we love engaging people, whether they're just getting started and thinking about this or whether they want to learn more. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can connect you up with a lot of free, materials and collateral and try to help you out if you're just getting started or you're trying to grow and scale. Either way.
Awesome. Rob?
Same here. Just link the link into the chat. Let's connect. Really looking forward to chatting with everybody and helping where I can.
That's awesome. Follow these two on LinkedIn. They're absolute legends in this space. We couldn't have been more thankful to have you all. Please reach out if you have any follow-up questions on what we talked about. But again, unlock your partners this next year. Be prepared to set clear expectations and don't let things get stale, right? Fail to launch, fail to thrive. And why your partners will succeed is with focus, vision, and execution. So again, thank you all for coming by, and we hope you enjoyed the session and the rest of PLX as we close out the day.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys so much.